Board of Adjustments meeting has to be rescheduled. We didn't have a quorum.
Didn't have a quorum. We need 4 of the 5, only have 3. So. But they meet so often, though.
Yeah.
Someone probably forgot they were on it.
Yeah.
Mary did notify me.
No, he is out of town. I didn't hear from Jeremiah.
Sorry, I was running out of another meeting.
No, you're fine.
I'm trying to get out of that.
The Board of Adjustments met, we had to postpone the meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So we're going to meet again in 2 weeks before the next board meeting. At 6:30.
Alright.
Alright, everybody ready? Turn on your microphones. Alright, I call to order the meeting of December 1st, 2020. Can I have a moment of silence for all those serving inside and outside our borders, please? Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can I have roll call, please, Mary?
Mayor Adrian Sandoval.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Clark.
Here.
Mike Calper.
Here.
Ralston.
Here.
Spencer Brednan. Troy Blum.
Here.
Jeremiah Overman.
Here.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Audience participation. Did you want to say anything or just peanut gallery?
I'll be in the.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Miko, everybody.
Thank you.
He's from the Silver Spur.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
He has a political science degree.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Yep. All right. We don't have any audience participation. Moving on to consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the November 17th, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. Action items. Ordinance 794, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville, amending section 11-4-30 of the Platteville Municipal Code to dissolve the cemetery perpetual care fund. Mr. Rinke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you may recall, during the budget process, this item was discussed. Kind of trying to get some research because perpetual care funds can be complicated in the state of Colorado. I had research to basically establish how the perpetual care fund was established, and then based upon how it was established is how we can either must keep it or dissolve it. Based upon her research and the memo that was distributed to the board this last month, the board does have the option to abolish the perpetual care fund, use those funds toward the cemetery expenses. She wrote the ordinance in language that did not restrict how you want to use those funds, but my recommendation is we have to build the east expansion of the cemetery. So if you abolish this fund, I'd like to have those funds earmarked for that expansion. I have at the next meeting, I'll show the board a draft schematic from Northern Engineering about how Dave and I met with them and their surveyor to see how that design may look like. But I prefer that money be applied toward the design. It's about $130,000 total. And then toward whatever construction costs it would go for. We're running out of room in the current existing municipal cemetery. We're estimating 3 to 4 years based upon how many burials that we do. You drive up there to the gate on the left-hand side across from the River Memorial. That's the section that's remaining left that's available for space. So it's pretty much just one row along the road going south and north with a few inside the cemetery. But when Kendrick drafted that ordinance, we spoke. It was my belief that the board may want to abolish the perpetual care fund because it doesn't really generate any interest to offset the cost of maintenance. So if you decide to do that, which is my recommendation, then I would like the board to earmark those funds in the future toward cemetery expansion costs. So that's my brief synopsis, if you will.
Questions, comments, concerns?
The rest of the required expense for maintenance would come from where then?
The annual revenue sources that we're going to talk about fees here in a little bit. But this would be, you could put some of it aside, but I'd really like to make the cemetery whole based upon bringing in revenues, not just this one-time lump sum fee.
If there's some identifiable costs that are available for maintenance, irrigation.
We're still working on that. We're still working on that.
Okay. You know where I'm going with this.
I absolutely, it needs to pay for itself, but it really, cemetery really don't. But we need to figure out a way to make this one work. Because the main revenues, as far as the cemetery is concerned, from the burial spaces, the open close costs that we charge, and then years ago, we started leasing against the water fund for the lease of the water tanks that are up in the cemetery. And that was a calculation we came up with years ago. And that generates, depending on the year, $70,000 to $80,000 roughly. And it usually takes about $100,000 plus to operate that cemetery. So we're close, but not there. Over the years, I've tried to bring in lease agreements on the water towers. Nobody wants to put equipment on the bigger one because of the trees that skew the site. So all the equipment that's up there is Sprint, Telos, and there's, I think, Watt Wire. It used to be called Watt Wire, still up there, but they don't generate a lot of revenue. So our options are limited, Larry, as far as revenue. So, but we're gonna talk about fees in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, I'm entertaining a motion, and if you look on our packet, it says 793, it's actually 794.
Move to approve ordinance 794, an ordinance of the town board of trustees of the town of Platteville, amending section 11-4-30 for the Platteville Municipal Code to dissolve the cemetery perpetual care fund, and I would like those funds earmarked to the expansion for the cemetery.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Mike Helper,
Aye.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan, Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Jeremiah Overman.
Aye.
Alright. Perfect. Moving on to resolution 2020-20, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville summarizing revenues and expenditures for each fund and adopting a budget for calendar year 2021. Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Typically, the first board meeting of each December, the board approves and adopts the budget for the next fiscal year. In this series of resolutions, this process for the city of Colorado is completed. This first resolution technically adopts the budget as presented tonight by summarizing revenues and expenditures as outlined in the draft budget. After tonight, it'll be the final budget, not the draft. We don't have anything else to add to it. David Green, our town accountant, put together the resolution and sent it to Mary. He puts the numbers together based upon the draft budget. And on the second page of the first page summarizes, and the second page actually discusses what's actually in the budget, such as the general fund, roughly 3.8 million, expenses, capital improvement fund, about 1.278. It's only about 7.6 million in total estimated expenditures. We've never spent our full expenditures, ladies and gentlemen. We budget pretty conservatively, but if the money's there and we have a good fiscal year, we come close. So, but that is what this resolution is for you to formally adopt the budget for 2021.
All that work comes down to this resolution.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve resolution 2020-20. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville summarizing revenues and expenditures for each fund and adopting a budget for calendar year 2021 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Yay. Alright, resolution 2020-21, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts of and for the purposes set forth below for 2021. Mr. Rankin.
Very similar to the first resolution, this is their second step, where the state requires us for the board to appropriate these funds, the sums of money and funds to the various fund categories or fund types in the budget. The numbers are the same, as you can all see, but this is the second resolution that's required by the state to adopt the budget.
Comments, concerns? Entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the resolution 2020-21, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts of and for the purpose set forth below for the 2021 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alright. Resolution 2020-22, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville levying general property taxes for the year 2019
It's
for the year
20.
2020.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. To help defray the cost of government for the Town of Platteville, Colorado for 2021. Mr. Rankin.
The third and final resolution, which is required by the state, and all municipalities and governing bodies certify their property tax and mill levy to the county by December 15th of each year. Next meeting on December 15th. I don't like waiting for the last meeting, so we did the first meeting of the month. The mill levy was formally certified or provided to us on Monday. Mary received that because of the year we had and the deferment in property tax. The preliminary actually came out when we were finalizing the draft budget. The final came out Monday. David Green, county accountant, called the Will County assessor on Friday and got a verbal that our numbers weren't changing based upon the prelim. So this is their final property tax assessment. The town has 18.385 mills, which we dedicate 1 mill to the Platteville Library, which is part of our agreement with the library and the High County Library District. So the general fund will have $748,630, and we'll dedicate $43,061 to the library for our agreement. It's lower than last year. Our total assessed valuation is $42,862,320, which is about $1 million less than the previous year. Which is hard for me to believe for the property rates the way they are in the last couple of years, but I'm not going to argue with Will County. And
Sorry, go ahead.
this is the first requirement that we have to submit this to Will County. So Thursday, David Green will come in and there's a form we have to complete online, and he will submit it with my signature. That way we certify the mill levy so we get our property tax. The state actually DOLA, we send DOLA the budget. By the end of the month, it's not required until January 31st. So we do it all the next 2 weeks.
I'll just clarify, you said the property taxes are not increasing, they're staying the same flat?
Our assessed valuations went down.
Okay.
Yeah, the town-wide assessed valuations went down from the previous year.
And that's the deficit of the budget. Okay.
I think countywide it all went down, didn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. From the market, residential market I've seen last year, that's hard for me to believe, but
Yeah.
as you look around the county, there's more and more what I call depressed commercial industrial properties. We have a couple in town that are vacant. It's unfortunate, but I don't get involved too much in how they assess the property valuation. Some town managers want to contest every dime they don't get. I'm not one of those. This doesn't really give me very
It's out of our hands anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Questions, comments, concerns? Entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2020-22, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville levying general property taxes for the year 2020, is that right?
Yes.
To help defray the cost of government for the Town of Platteville, Colorado for 2021 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, motion carried. Resolution 2020-23, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville, Colorado, establishing town holidays for 2021. Mr. Rankin.
thank you. This has not changed for many years. The board, since I've been here, traditionally have adopted 11 official holidays. There are actually 8 holiday events ranging from New Year's Day to Christmas. As you can see, there's 2 days for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and typically for the 4th of July, not this next year. And then 1 floating holiday. So the employees get 11 paid days off, holidays. We're actually recognizing 8 official holidays during the course of the year. And years ago, we researched this compared to other towns, and we're about average, between 10 and 12. We're not the federal government, we don't have 50. We're municipal, we don't have that, so. But I reviewed what Murray put together, and it looks pretty good.
I know you said 11 paid holidays, but that's because the 4th of July doesn't,
Well, they still get the 1 day for in
the one day,
recognition.
these are just showing, I've been counted, it looks like it's only 10.
Right, but then you get the 1 floating holiday.
Oh, okay.
So there's 8 holiday events, is what I call them, but there's 2 for Thanksgiving, 2 for Christmas, and the floating at discretionary holiday. What we did years ago is, we used to recognize Columbus Day, and the staff at the time, we didn't really feel like taking off on Columbus Day, so the board offered to give us a floating holiday to use as a discretionary day.
Okay.
I remember that.
Yep.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 2020-23, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville establishing town holidays for 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Motion approved, resolution approved. Resolution 2020-24, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving the construction contract between the State of Colorado by and through the Colorado Department of Transportation for the Division Sidewalk Project. Mr. Inky.
Thank you. This past year, I applied for this grant funding from CDOT. Each year, they typically get out funding for pedestrian improvements, for transit opportunities. We can't financially support a public transit system, so I go after sidewalk grant. This one was identified for Division Boulevard to connect Reynolds Avenue to Goodrich, where about 3 years ago, we received a similar grant to build a sidewalk from River along Goodrich to Division, then on the east side of Division to the middle school, and then we collected to the elementary school. 10 years ago, I obtained my first CDOT sidewalk grant. We built the sidewalk along Reynolds, or River from, along Valley Village from Grand Avenue to River. So we're trying to make that connection loop to the schools from different subdivisions. This one I like because Division is a high pedestrian traffic area, and it crosses our major park in town, and it connects to the ball fields. So, and next year we're going to build another sidewalk on Reynolds Avenue as part of that project. So there's a lot of sidewalks going in next year, new ones. This one, what's nice about it is there's a no-match grant. So when I applied for this grant, Northern Engineering gave me an estimate of just over $226,000 to build roughly 5-foot wide attached sidewalk on existing curb and gutter on the west side of Division, so on your side of the way that you live on. some money that we're gonna need to do some landscaping adjustments, remove some trees. Dave and I have been working with XL Energy to relocate a couple utility poles. Like in Lincoln Park, there's a light pole right there where the sidewalk needs to go by the museum, as an example. Larry's neighbor has a big tree that we're gonna have to take out because can't build around it. The other one we wanna keep, so we're gonna make some adjustments to keep the trees we can, so. But this is a total of $248,226. This contract was put on hold during COVID because CDOT staff was put on stay-at-home orders, and this was delayed, but we knew we had, the contract says we have a 10-year window. So when David and I met with them to discuss this agreement, the contract controller writes a 10-year window even though the money's good for 3 years. Because in years past, towns don't pursue the projects when they should, and they ask for continuances. We've never done that. We get a project done by the grant deadline. We always have. So I feel comfortable doing this next year. I'll be curious to see what concrete prices come in as, because I'm hearing it's skyrocketing. But I think this one, there's just no town match to it. It's just budgeted in the capital improvement fund as a pass-in, pass-out expense. So this requires the mayor's signature, and then according to the CDOT controller, we can start this project next spring. The only caveat is we can't do both the Reynolds Avenue project and the Division Sidewalk project simultaneously. We have to do one before the other, because the way the state works is you cannot tie into another active project using other funds. You need to finish one or the other. So more than likely we'll probably pursue this project first, because Reynolds Avenue will take longer. And that sidewalk in Reynolds Avenue will probably be toward, mid to late summer as part of the whole road improvement. So that's kind of a general summary. I haven't talked about this for about a year, but it was put on hold because of COVID and work restrictions by CDOT.
So is this sidewalk gonna be done by CDOT, or do we contract it out?
We're gonna have to bid it out.
Okay.
It's a competitive bid process, and it's a reimbursement, just like the other grants we get from CDOT, so we'll pay it in advance and then we'll get reimbursed. It doesn't require, a couple of huge issues with CDOT contracts, it does not require environmental review. They waive that because it's just an old part of town, so we don't have to deal with that. It did involve, we paid out of our own pocket this last year. We did a small contract with engineering through the survey and engineering. What we had to do was called a SUV. It's a new requirement based upon the Firestone home explosion that we had to do subsurface utility locates, and we did that along Division to make sure everything's safe. There are 2 properties that we don't have a sufficient right-of-way for that was going to throw a kink into this whole project. And after Dave and I had a conference, we had a Zoom meeting, whatever, with CDOT, they're pretty lenient with us. Instead of going through their right-of-way acquisition hoops, he just flat told me if he can meet with those 2 property owners and work out a deal between the property owners and the town and just build it before or after this project, they're not going to get involved, which saved us a lot of time and expense. The CDOT right-of-way acquisition process is long and lengthy, and it complicates things. So, but I just want full disclosure. There's 2 property owners I'm going to be meeting probably next month to discuss that, and they're right next to town hall, right here in the corner. This town is platted so strangely. Their property lines come out to the middle of Division.
Ooh, no kidding.
Yep. So we'll be going with that. Always a part. That's all I have on this one.
Do you foresee any pushback there on the tree removal of the one person's property?
I
Some
haven't
people get
talked.
protective of their large trees because it takes them so long and so much shade.
I haven't talked to him directly, but what we do on our sidewalk projects is there's no out of pocket to the residences. So if there's a tree that needs to be removed, I pay for it, the town pays for it, which is part of our budget cost. And the previous sidewalk projects, everybody's been pretty much in agreement. So, if, little things that I don't play games with people. I mean, if we take out a tree and it's like, you know what, I want a new, blue spruce planted further back, I'll probably go buy them a $200 tree and plant it for them. I mean, I'm not gonna cause issues with residents.
Right.
This is a benefit to everybody. So.
And then one other thing, Reynolds Avenue said is going to be started by September next year, or
it'll probably start mid-summer.
okay.
And if depending on the weather, I'd like to do this one first in the spring,
Right.
because it'll take about a month to get it wrapped up and signed off by the state controller, and then pursue Reynolds Avenue.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping for. So, because they'll still be filling those detention ponds into next spring. So, and there's still some final engineering left yet to be done on Reynolds Avenue. And this one's pretty much shovel ready. I mean, the engineer has to finalize. It's a basic design. We have the survey done. It's a curb cast style, 5-foot style. So it's pretty straightforward. And just so you know, because I had a question about Reynolds Avenue, not Reynolds, but Lincoln Park. So we'll build the sidewalk along Lincoln Park, and then once we sign off on this, I'd like to talk to the board about then connecting where we built the new sidewalk on the corner, especially there at Division and Elizabeth, and extend that sidewalk back west along Lincoln, or along Elizabeth to the shelter. So there's a connection there. Because on the south side of the park, by the museum and library, there's a sidewalk. So it makes sense to me is where that handicap ramp's gonna go on that corner, where the Lincoln Park sign is. That once this project's done, so we gotta sign off on it, then we come back and we finish that last stretch of 5 foot from that corner back west to the shelter. That way everything's connected. So I just haven't talked about that yet.
On Lincoln Park, it's a little bit higher than the road, so is it gonna be like a retaining wall, the sidewalk and retaining wall, or what's the plan with that? I was looking at that the other day.
Built the same thing on Division. So if you drive down Division, a lot of those yards were sloped. So some people, at their own expense, they put in retaining walls, and some just agreed to just have it sloped. So it'll pretty much be the same thing.
Does it slope down to the sidewalk then?
Mhm.
Okay. Because I was looking, it's up a couple feet from the road, so I was thinking
Yeah,
we're gonna cut back.
They're gonna have to do some earthwork, we're gonna have to adjust some sprinkler heads, some subsurface stuff, and then, based upon the design, they'll slope it. If we wanna, discuss doing a retaining wall, we can before the project starts, but that'd be out of our own pocket. That's not part of this design. The bad thing about a retaining wall is too high, then you have to have a railing
I was
on
gonna
it.
say that's liability then.
There's a liability issue.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully they keep coming out with these grants, because this is the first no match grant. The last two for River back 10 years ago, and then 3 years ago for Goodrich and Division, they were 80-20 grant matches. So I like this one a lot better.
80-20 is still good though.
It is very good.
Yes.
Very good.
Very nice. All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? I entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve resolution 2020-24, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville approving the construction contract between the state of Colorado by and through the Colorado Department of Transportation for the Division Sidewalk Project, and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution approved. Yay. Water Quality Improvement Fund Grant, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you. This is a very new grant opportunity. JV came upon this from CDPHE. Comes out of the Water Quality Control Division, Grants and Loans Unit. I've never heard of this one before, but I think you don't deal with CDPHE, mostly CDOT. Short window, November 6th to December 4th, so Friday's the deadline. You have in your packet the draft that the main application, JVA, Shane from JVA Road, and then I complete the other sections. These are just required sections. Pretty straightforward. Basically there's a pool of money. I didn't research this grant, to be honest with you. I relied on JVA. There's a pool of money from what JVA found out we can apply to $165,000. And if we get this, I can apply this to offset our costs or design engineering that we're currently paying JVA to do. So we can keep more money in the bank, hopefully. But there's a good opportunity that we could probably get this grant. It's a small one. It's a no match grant for $165,000. I call it a small one because our project is looking at to be a $6 million project for the wastewater, but every little penny helps. So I thought the board would want to approve this tonight, so I told JVA last week before Thanksgiving to send me the draft, and then we'll finalize it tomorrow, Thursday, and we'll submit it to CDPHE by Friday, the deadline. So keep your fingers crossed.
Questions, comments, concerns? entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the submission of the Water Quality Improvement Fund grant application packet by the town manager as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Fabulous. Thank you for going after that. Cemetery fees, Mr. Rankin.
This item and then the next one, the employee handbook, we talked about in the budget as well. A former deputy clerk I assigned her to research a few towns and get cost comparables for cemetery fees. Mary also added a few towns locally and updated the spreadsheet for the board to look at. And we do this so we know if from the ballpark cost-wise to be reasonable surrounding communities. The proposed line item in your packet on that spreadsheet is from David. I sent this to David since he does with the cemetery more than us. Mary does with it quite a bit as well. People come in first. But we're not too far out of the ballpark as far as cost for burials and open closes. But David did make a few recommendations on increasing fairly nominally. For example, your full body from 1,000 to 1,200 for a resident, then open close, increase $100. And as you can see down the list, this is your discretion if you think this is reasonable. If you want to change these proposals, increase them, leave them the same. I don't have a set amount myself, so I defer to David on this one. So, and they're not all consistent. I mean, the full body is fairly consistent, but when you get into some places that are called bariums, cremations, gardens, infant charges are different, and then their weekend service fees are different. I think it's pretty representative of the area with Evans, Fort Lupton, Johnstown, Newton, Windsor. And this is our primary revenue for the cemetery.
Questions, comments, and concerns?
Did David calculate these with pre-offset the costs?
I'm sorry?
Did David calculate that these would offset the cost more?
These
I mean, I know they
won't.
will, but are they gonna be sufficient enough, or I don't want to be too absorbed?
These, based upon my look at, my review of them, these won't offset our deficit based upon what we received the last couple of years.
Okay.
It'll help get closer, but it's not going to offset. If you don't offset our deficit, you probably have to double these fees, which I'm not recommending. But we need to take a harder look at what our operation costs really are. And for example, our mowing contract with RSL, we allocate money for the cemetery, the conservation trust fund, the general fund. And take a look at that allocation, see if that's an accurate allocation. We'll assess the cemetery for mowing. That's one thing. These fees are another. Luckily, we don't have a water bill. We get water out of the ditch, so that helps out a lot. We need to reassess this next year, at least on the water tank, because that's been a number of years since we've done that. And I'm always looking for other means of bringing revenue in, which is somewhat restricted because we're going to utilize the whole property. So, other than leasing wireless equipment off our water tanks, haven't found another source of revenue yet. Cemetery.
So maybe off subject there. I'm okay with these fees. I just want to make sure it was. I don't know if it was calculated or not, but we looked at trimming some of those trees to make them more appealing for more leases, and then also, do we have contracts, set prices on those leases, or are they?
The primary one we have is, Mary helped me out, I think, is it Sprint that we have?
Mm-hmm.
And it generates, and it's a fair market lease. We get a little over 10,000 a year, so we get about $800 a month off of it. They have increased that in recent years because every time they add an antenna, I ask for another $300 a month. Okay. Which is standard market. Talking to the town managers on what they lease properties for cell tower for cell equipment. So, I think we're reasonable as far as marketing, but that doesn't bring a whole lot in. I was hoping to bring in a couple of new ones. Years ago, Verizon was coming in, but they decided the tower outside of the cemetery just north, that you see from 85, that's a Verizon tower. I almost talked to them about the cemetery, then they opted to stay outside because of those trees. And they made an agreement with that private property owner instead. So, and Telos, we don't charge them because they provide us free service to all municipalities for internet service.
Okay.
So, the cemetery needs more work as far as figuring out.
Well, I was just looking at maybe marketing a little bit better with trimming those trees back and giving them a better view of.
And some of the trees are on our property, but some aren't. That's the problem. We're on those adjoining neighbors' properties to the west of the cemetery.
I think in some aspects, the cemetery is gonna be like the recreation, where it's not a moneymaker.
Yeah.
It's to serve the people in town.
I would just more or less
But
just want
to-
to offset a little bit.
Yeah,
At not the
think
cost
outs-
of the citizens.
Absolutely, think outside the box and do that.
How many been since we raised the fees? When's the last time we raised them?
And it's,
About 5-6 years ago?
I would say at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was on the board when we were looking at.
Yeah, the resident, non-resident.
Yeah.
The last time that both you and Mike were on.
Yeah, it's been a few years, not the last 4, I know that.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns?
I'm simply recommending David's proposal is what I'm doing.
I would entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve the proposed cemetery fee schedule. The increases.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Fees approved, thank you.
And just so you know, at the next meeting on the 15th, Mary will present in the packet a fee schedule update, so these fees will be adjusted in that fee schedule, so the board will formally adopt these fees at the next meeting. Because I'm also going to bring forward 1% increases for water and sewer rates as well, but I'll discuss that in 2 weeks.
Alright, moving on to the employee handbook amendment vehicle take-home policy, Mr. Lincoln.
Thank you. The last time we discussed the budget that I want to bring to the board for the new year, the take-home vehicle program. We've had one in the employee handbook for quite some time. I worked with Kendra and Wednesday before things, a couple Wednesdays ago actually, it was on Veterans Day. I came in and had a conference call with Kendra and Sam Light, he's the general counsel of CIRSA. We wanted to run by this policy with their insurance carrier for liability, property casualty, work comp. And on pages 48 and 49, part of 50, I asked Kendra to highlight so it's easy to track. The first 4 bullet points were already in the employee handbook, so I added the remaining bullet points about, and we reviewed other policies from Loveland PD to several municipalities, and not just municipalities, but police agencies have their own set policies. And I talked to Carl, we went back and forth if this should be under the police SOP or the town employee handbook. I prefer the town employee handbook, because not just police, public works can have take-home vehicles during their on-call week. We approved that a few years ago. But they have to be treated in a certain manner. Obviously, if they drive and they get tickets, they're gonna pay for those. If they crash inadvertently or deliberately, that's something that they're liable for. I explain that to the employees. You have to be responsible with these town-owned vehicles. But otherwise, some of this specifically addresses the police, and some of it is generalized for the police and employee works. All the employees have to be properly attired when they're coming to and from work in the town-owned vehicle, not just wear sweats and flip-flops. They need to be properly attired, as an example, and make sure it's locked properly off the public street or public parking when they're at the residence. They can't run up for personal errands. They're talking to Sam Light and Kendra if they're on the way home and they stop at a gas station, grab a cup of coffee. I don't have a big problem with that. Just CIRSA wants to know that if we allow that, we need to articulate that with them. That way, if they're in the gas station, as an example, the new 7-Eleven Fort Lufkin, somebody drives in, they bump into them, is that employee responsible? To me, I don't have a big issue with that, because that's such a rare occurrence. If they're not paying attention and slide out the road on the ice storm and wreck the vehicle, they're gonna pay the deductible for service to fix the vehicle, okay? Person liable for damages, or even unlocked. It's pretty straightforward, but I did look at this pretty thoroughly because, right now, for years, the police chief and public works directors had to take home vehicles full time. And then, since we've hired, Pablo, our sergeant, I allowed him to take home vehicle during his work week, not on his weekend. Cause he is liable to be called out if Carl is not available. Public Works has been, for the last couple of years, taking home vehicles during their on-call week, cause they have to come in every day, every weekend, and then they get called out more often than you realize at night for different issues, especially during shut-offs, when we have been. But, this will allow the police department, what I'm gonna expand on is the police officers, part of their benefits is during their work week, all the officers can have an assigned vehicle to drive back and forth to work, which will save them financially. But they're gonna have to, on a work week, have a spouse or somebody drop them off to get the vehicle for their work week, and then pick them up afterwards, or they have to leave a personal vehicle here at town hall. So, that's my summary, that's my recommendation. I ran this by legal counsel and CERS, and they're fine with it. So, I want to present to the board. I told Carl the board approved this, and we'd implement this January 1, not this month. We need to train the officers, because they're gonna be, kid you not, officers are the worst. They have the most what-if questions you can possibly imagine. What if?
Well, they see it all.
What if a dog runs down 66 and like goes to the ditch? Is that my fault? What if? What if? What if? Being police chief myself for 10 years, I know how that feels. But that's all I have on this one.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? I'd entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve the amended employee handbook as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Perfect. January 1, you said?
Yeah, the first week of January, the first rotation, Carl will implement this, but we're gonna meet. I asked him at his next meeting for me to sit down with the officers and just discuss this, so we're on the same page with all the what ifs. That's what I call it.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right, moving on to reports. Mr. Rankin.
Just so you know, the next meeting I've asked, because we're trying to restrict our occupancy, I'll probably have on the screen on the teams, David, Janet, and Carl. They were itching to, and believe it or not, they like to report to the board if they're not here. So they're gonna do it remotely next meeting. One thing I really have to update you on my written report is today, tomorrow, Thursday, I have an hour-and-a-half webinars with Will County, all the municipalities on the hazardous mitigation plan. It is quite dry. To be honest with you, it's a requirement by FEMA, but if I don't participate, then I get docked, so I don't want to do that for the town. But we went over a lot of mitigation action steps, plans, how to engage in the public, the FEMA process requirement. It's quite dry, to be honest with you. Nothing against Will County, but it is. So I'll do that this week, and then on the 15th, if all goes well, there was some talk today in the webinar that we may push, or the county may push this back to January approval. The main reason I'm having the January 15th meeting is to approve this, because that's what they initially told me. So I'm gonna work with them the next 2 days to see if we can get this approved on the 15th. And again, we do this every 5 years. The 4 mitigation action steps that I work on is our emergency warning system, our phone message warning system, our COG plan that we adopted that we're going to have to go review this winter, and our emergency management plan. Some towns get very detailed. They talk about full-blown, as you can imagine with the floods. Lyons talks about storm drainage master plan to keep the river from flooding in town. That doesn't impact Platteville. You know, we focus on high winds, tornadoes, droughts, and blizzards. Those are the biggest things. So, at least that's what I focus on. So that's coming your way. You know, the Board of Adjustments got pushed back for 2 weeks. Friday at noon, I meet Linda Moorhead and Susan Dynas at Heritage Title in Greeley. They close on that property. That morning, Mary, it's a wire transfer, purchase only, so Mary has to do that with Bank Colorado and transfer the money. And then I'll go through and sign all the documents. We'll take possession of that next week probably. And then the last thing I have is, next meeting is the last meeting, just so you know, it'll be fairly short. It'll be the fee schedule I mentioned, the hazardous mitigation plan. I will present to the board as part of the fee schedule. Right now I'm leaning toward recommending just waiving our administrative fee on trash services to offset the $2.05 cost. Looking at a program that people can apply for to get lower trash fees, but I don't have anything set in stone with that yet. I've been trying to talk to Carl Hardy, but he's about to retire in the South. They have something similar, but it's not very much. It's like $1. So, as I mentioned the last meeting with Brad and Carolyn, and they know very clearly, because we've had offline conversations, it's hard for me to stomach charging some of these seniors that put out one tiny bag, you know, $24 a month, but we'll have that conversation. Then lastly, another budget requirement is Mary and I are appointed officials by you, along with the town attorney and the municipal judge. So they're under contract. Mary and I, the last meeting of the year, our compensation is approved by the board by ordinance. So that'll be last time next week, next meeting. So
It's not a meeting next week.
not next week.
Meeting.
I misspoke. 2 weeks.
Okay.
On the 15th.
Just want to clarify, all right.
I meant next meeting, not next week. Just FYI, personal, I've been talking to here and there on the next 4 weeks. I'm gonna take a day off here and there each week, dealing with a spinal rehabilitation issue. Just so if I'm not here, comment myself or just email me. I'll get back with you. I'm just doing some rehab. I'm getting old. So, season, yes. Right.
Old is an attitude.
Right.
I don't know if I'm right yet.
When you get it right, you get easily
I've
proven.
got too many old sports injuries that are catching up.
They do, they catch up, like, wait till your knees start going.
Knees are good. The C6 and 7 in my neck are not, so I'm just rehabbing it.
Any other questions, comments for Troy?
I saw that they're starting to work on that dirt work up there.
Yep.
So you're saying that's gonna take a while to do all that then?
Cause we asked them to start late instead of in early November. We asked them to start now because we're dealing with the Dynas purchase. And so they think, it'll probably go into February at least.
Wow.
But I don't really have any big issue with that. I told them they have to be done by April before we start on the Rouse Avenue project.
Are they gonna work on that, storm drainage line too, or is that gonna be done in the summer?
That'll be the last thing they do.
Oh, okay.
You know, the drainage swell that goes from Reynolds
Right.
over between Division and Main. Cause we, in the spring, we had to tear down that old shed.
Mm-hmm.
I believe John Rupel has taken all the stuff out of there.
Is he gonna tear that down, or do we?
It's our property.
It's ours.
We have to tear it down. So there's a cost involved with that I don't know what it is yet. It's a demo, but we have to do some testing because, again, if there's asbestos or whatever. In this unique building, because Steve Mathers had basically a contractor go by, and it looks pretty rickety, but it's actually pretty solid on the north side. So we're gonna actually have to use a bulldozer and build it down. But that'll have to go, and then that swell will go right through there.
Right.
Basically on the west side of where that shed is, so we don't infringe on that lot for future development on that corner. Had a little hiccup today because I got a call, actually yesterday I had a call from, his name was Brett Kavanaugh, no relation to the Supreme Court judge, from Midstream. They have that gas line that you can see the gas head over here along Division, and there's an easement that runs all the way underneath across 85 to Front Street. They noticed today that they were driving over that easement, which they need to. What we found out is their line isn't as deep as we thought it was, based upon our locates, and they have a 2-foot minimum clearance requirement so we don't infringe on that 2-foot buffer of dirt. Right now our design is to go down to about a foot above that gas line. So I'm working with Steve and David to readjust the design so we don't infringe on that easement. So we'll figure that out tomorrow. So little things like that come up. But that's the last project we're gonna do this year, and it goes into next year.
Are they having to reroute those two inlets on the Anadarko side over?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that gonna be underground then, over to that?
I believe so. Don't quote me on that, Floyd, but I believe that'll be relocated. That's all being filled in. They're gonna dig out the other one on Division, then they'll wrap up the one on the Under Community Center, they'll enlarge that as designed. And they'll go through that gate, which will be our gate now, as of Friday. But we didn't know that there's a small, tiny retention pond over on the northwest corner of the Dynas property next to ours. But if you don't stop and look at it, it's just fenced in. It's a little small, little square section.
Is it by that white property right next to it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's by, I can't think of the name right now, but the gentleman to the north.
Right, okay.
And that's where they're gonna travel to bring that dirt out. So once we buy it, we'll just fill that in. And then they'll have access, probably knock that fence out, they'll have access to that. So, but yeah, that's a visible project. But there's nothing really else going on right now that.
A water line repair.
Yeah, tomorrow, David, we have a leak on Byers, over there on Byers by the middle school. It's been a steady week since last week, and we can't find any valves, we can't locate any valves to turn that pressure off, so we're gonna basically have a contractor come in tomorrow and repair it live, and put a valve in for future use. And we were notified this afternoon by CDOT maintenance that we didn't have a permit. Because Main Street's the road, we have to trench Main Street. So I get a hold of Tim Delabrand, and Katrina Cloverdance is the traffic engineer. And Tim's a great guy to work with. He said, you know, this is called an emergency repair, so my email is your permit, go fix it. So that was kind of nice, you know, so they had to jump through any hoops. And then all the questions you hear on 66, there's no resurfacing or any work done on the road on 66, those signs. Katrina Coverdance, engineer from CDOT, who replaced Larry Haas, who I know, he retired. They give a permit for United Power XL to do utility work.
Redoing those lines across there.
Just like they were doing on 21. And then CDOT maintenance is gonna go in and do some culvert repairs along that stretch, but should not impact the flow of traffic. So that's a big concern.
It is good that they warned everybody though.
Yeah, but we had to dig and find out what was going on. They don't tell us,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But once we ask, they'll tell us.
Over on 32.5, weren't they gonna take out that pole? We were gonna widen that corner out, weren't we?
Yeah, we're still waiting on next cell.
So, but they'll come back and widen that out, so it'll be a good turn for the.
They're gonna underground that, they'll remove the pole, put the
There's gonna be
pole
underground
in.
pole sitting there, yeah.
So that pole is right next to that asphalt, so
Yeah.
that'll still be asphalted in.
Okay.
I think we asked for like a 6-foot patch in there. And then the design on the Reynolds Avenue for the undergrounding is completed. It's under final review by the XL management team, because they have contractors do the design and send to XL management for final review. Main Street, I have nowhere to go on that one. Al Ermer, the designer from XL, I've reached out to the regional manager multiple times. Yeah, Lucas McConnell, and I'm gonna reach out again by the other week and say, you know, what's the deal? It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in a huge rush because we're still dealing with CDOT on the devolution, but that's not gonna impact them from getting this done.
Right.
So it's a little frustrating, but so many state agencies, the vast majority of the employees are working remotely, and it's not always easy to get a hold of them. Cause everyone in CDOT says I'm working remotely, if I don't respond, call this cell number.
They're out playing.
Right.
Yeah. Not knocking CDOT or anybody, but
That virus is going, it's always been distant from my family, but now it's like everybody.
It's everywhere.
My kid, my son called me today, he works at JBS, been working from home, but he said, I haven't been anywhere, been home, but I got it.
yeah.
So now him and his girlfriend are quarantined, and so it's going on like crazy.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's a good, I'm working remotely, I have to remember that one. That's a pretty good line.
We have a policy the board adopted to allow certain staff to work from home, but like I said earlier, even if you close town hall, the worst case scenario will still come to my office. Nobody's here, why not? But, and Mary will be here with me too, probably.
So you might get your computer sick.
Yeah, that's true. Might get virus.
Virus.
That's where they're getting to work from home and get right to the computer.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't start that rumor.
Hey, I'm gonna tweet it. I'm gonna
It'll
tweet
be all over
it.
Facebook.
Per Troy Rankin in the Town of Platteville.
There's just a couple little things. Carl's working on Santa Cops. He said they have doubled the number of households from last year. There's 80 some, almost 90 some that they're gonna be distributing. The back room of Town Hall where the lockers are just full of gifts. Full of gifts.
He said there is plenty of donations.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of great donations.
Okay.
My neighbor, I had him call him today. He wants to adopt a family. He's gonna take his little kids out and go shopping for them so they learn the meaning of Christmas, you know, giving gifts. Janet's struggling a little bit because the seniors went back in. I won't let them. We're not renting out the community center right now because we're trying to follow protocol. I think 2 weeks from Saturday, Jenny's going to have an outdoor dance recital for her class because none of the schools will allow us in the buildings. Which, by the way, our rec department, we were going to start practice for basketball now. Everything's suspended because while school is closed till the middle of January, we can't get in the facilities. So. So just so you know, it's a little frustrating because there's.
Yep.
But they're still doing the senior nutrition meal, which hasn't been banned yet. So, but that's needed.
And they pick those up or we deliver them or both?
Both. They'll pull up. They always try to come in. We tell them to stay outside. And there's 4 of them that I'll go deliver because they're homebound. I mean, like Irene, she doesn't drive. I'll go drop hers off.
Right, perfect.
And then last Wednesday we delivered 99 meals for Thanksgiving.
99, yes.
And then I think Spencer wants to do a Christmas box meal.
Yes, so nothing's prepared. It's boxes of everything is what he's heading up.
So on the 12th, that's Saturday, a group of citizens will do the parade at 6, line up at 5. Parade starts at 6 down Main Street, no more route.
Okay.
And then I talked to Sharon at Tri-State and Joe. And they'll be here that morning on the 12th and at 7 o'clock with all the fireworks at the sewer lagoon.
Okay. This Sunday at 10 a.m. there's a group of citizens getting together to decorate the Christmas tree on Main and Fires. Right? So Sunday at 10, if you guys want to join in on that. The fire department and police department will be there. Fire department's going to help with the tall part of the tree. When you drive by that tree, it doesn't look really big, but when you stand next to it, it's pretty big.
And the way it's shaped, you can't reach with a ladder.
No, that's exactly right. Well, we can't even find a ladder tall enough to even begin to reach. So, yes.
So with the decoration, we're just decorating with the lights.
Yeah, and then we used part of the mayor's budget last year and bought some big ornaments. I went to Walmart and bought a whole cart full of the big ornaments. We don't have enough to do it all the way around, but the front side of the tree gets decorated, and then I made a 42-inch star, because they're like $3,000. I made it out of hangers and lights, and the fire department puts it up at the top.
It turned out pretty well.
It did.
I thought it was cute because not to sound bad, but 2 weeks ago when I saw the ladder truck out next door, they were decorating the building with a ladder truck.
Yeah.
I was just shaking my head like.
Yeah, it's training.
Yep.
That's right.
They were all decked out. They had all
gotta
the
do
gear
your
on.
yearly certification on the boom certification. What better would use than just the telescope?
Hey, it worked perfect. I
Yeah,
was
she
like,
works
what are
good.
they doing?
I was looking at that too, I was driving, I'm like, I bet you they used the
Yeah.
The fire truck can get those up there.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
mean, you got the equipment.
Then they have to hire a bucket truck, I guess, so.
Well, they got the Gilchrist, they had to expand that one because of the EMTs, and it's all done now, so they got that new addition out there, it looks nice.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna talk to you Turkey next year when we hang our lights down Main Street instead of
Just, yeah, do
getting a
some
bucket
training.
truck. Yeah, I'll just say fire department train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how he's always told me is, yeah, we'll help, we'll just call it our training.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's tricky because there's power lines right there too, see, so they need that kind of training, so.
Obstacle training.
Mhm. Yeah, anything else for Mr. Rankin? Okay, I did have a couple of updates. Dola sent Troy and I, a grant opportunity for restaurants, that we can go after as a town to get them tents and heaters and tables and chairs for outdoor dining. So we can't allow them to have indoor dining, but we can create indoor dining for them outside. I was talking to Nico earlier before the meeting, and he said he'd be interested in it. It's depending on how much we apply for and the need, it's a 20 to 50% match. So I wanted to run that by you guys and see if you're game with me talking with the rest of the business owners, the restaurant owners, and getting a plan going. And obviously, the grant application would come before you, and you vote on it and approve it beforehand, but.
20 to 50% match on our side.
Yeah.
Now, when is that deadline again?
I think it's December 11th.
So we would have to have a special meeting to approve the application.
Let me look, I was just thinking about that too.
While you're looking that up, just a question. Didn't the county commissioners say they weren't upholding this next restriction? And so why are we shutting our businesses down?
I heard
I mean,
that.
I know one thing, talking to people at Tijuana, is they were gonna stay open,
Yeah.
but then they're threatened by the state since
Right.
they have an alcohol
And
license.
I'm glad you brought it up because what we did, Mary and I spoke when this came out. Mary distributed the notice. One was the red allocation, and the other one was from Division of Liquor. So they received 2 notices and said, here you go. This is what we're serving you. This is what we're required to do. We didn't tell anybody to shut down. Not anybody.
Right.
But you're right, the state did contact, especially the liquor establishments, and that's why they made their decisions. I just want to clarify on the record, the town did not tell businesses to shut down.
Okay, well, and that's what they said, that they called and the town said, you don't need to shut down, but then they later had to because the state flexed their muscle and said, we're gonna pull your license if you do stay open.
Yeah, they already
So-
went through Greeley and started pulling liquor license. For anybody
Well,
that
let's
stayed
start
open.
opening speakeasy, sorry, should probably say that, but this is just ridiculous in my opinion.
And, I don't know, I mean, it's 9 months ago, we went through the same thing, and we took the same approach with the businesses. It's like, we want to support you, be responsible, make the right decision, you know, and I talked to your dad, Benny, down in Silversburg. He made the choice, you know, do carry out delivery only, and we're not gonna jeopardize our customers, but we're gonna be hurt for a while, because our revenue's gonna go down.
Right.
So, any way we can help them out, I'm all for it.
Yeah, so on that topic, the county commissioners asked for a letter from me of support, because the media is paying them not to be 5 psycho commissioners, and they want letters of support, and they're getting lots of letters of support. And they're asking for, you know, my opinion, I stand with them, I agree with their decision. They're asking for us to say that we won't do that either, and because I don't believe I would have unanimous support in that decision, I'm not going to say that, but I will speak on my own personal belief that I agree with them. I just wanted you guys to know that. And it's for discussion, so please.
But you got my support.
I mean, our businesses are not gonna be there.
Right.
If we continue to allow this to go on. I mean, it's ridiculous that people can congregate at Home Depot and Best Buy and
Yeah.
Costco, yet small businesses who generally have a whole lot less people crashing out.
They have, yeah.
I have to be shut down. It's tyrannical. It is the elites trying to destroy the middle class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's what it is. Honest to God.
It's interesting.
Even with all these precautions and everything, our governor still got it, so what's to say this is actually gonna work? I mean,
I mean, it is a public health concern. I'm not belittling it whatsoever, but they are so arbitrary with the way they're handling it, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, if you're gonna shut it down, then it should be equally shut down across the board. You should not be allowed to go to Home Depot. You shouldn't be allowed to, you shouldn't be allowed to go to Best Buy. These big, huge companies are allowed to continue to operate, and the small businesses are getting shut down left and right, and that's my problem with it. I mean, it is a health concern. I'm not belittling the COVID virus and the people who died from it. It's horrible, but the way the government's handled it, it's tyrannical.
I've been really proud of Platteville. Like Troy said, we went around and made sure everybody, all the business owners were well aware of the rules and the recommendations from the state. And our businesses, our residents, we didn't close our parks in the beginning. In April, we didn't do it. And we didn't have people congregating in parks. Put out facts, people had information, and they did very well. Everybody, I think for the most part, did fantastic. Our businesses are doing what's best for them and their employees and their patrons, and but I firmly believe in leaving that decision up to them. For sure.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Just think about it. Not like I can't forecast this next year on the budget. I'm guessing. I'm anticipating it'll be okay. The revenues are hard to predict. But as far as this year, we have a good budget now. Instead of doing this grant, I'm authorized up to $10,000. Why? You talk to your businesses, and I just go buy them some big tents and space heaters and picnic tables. We can put outside the Silver Spur. We can put in the parking lot of the Crack Day, the Doubletree, and Tijuana.
We don't have to have a special meeting and go through the state.
And instead of going through the state, because it's restricted to 30,000, we gotta jump through hoops, and it's a match.
Yes.
It's not like tents are super expensive. We have 20 plastic picnic tables we can donate to the businesses to use. Space heaters are not super expensive.
Yeah, I was just looking at that too, Troy. It opened up yesterday and the deadline is December 11th. So we have to have a special meeting.
So we could do a special meeting, but I'm thinking, we really want to show her, just my idea, my suggestion.
I like it.
The town shows support.
Yep.
And we're
I think that would-
loaning,
I think that would mean more to the business owners
I
than
think
it's basically
looking for a handout from
and then it
Big
would
Brother.
give the state saying, look, we don't need your help. We've got this. We can take care of our own community.
We could do a program where we loan them picnic tables, tents, space heaters, extension cords, and then once it's all over,
We have personal rapport with all those restaurant owners.
Well, I think too, like if you were to put something out and said something, I think the community itself would kind of band together and help as much as they possibly could. Because I know there's a lot of people that really enjoy going to these restaurants here in town and would really do anything to keep them alive. So
we have 4 or 5 of those big white bed tents with sides on them.
Yep.
I mean, they're not super sturdy, but
We have to, put, I think, maybe sandbags on the side so you keep the sides
We
down and
have-
wind out.
Well, then have to
The
watch
guys-
for snow and make sure that it, because otherwise you
Clean
collapse
out.
on.
the guys, those aren't real sturdy. They're gonna be temporary until you find something better. But they poured 5-gallon buckets of concrete with eyelets in it so we can tie down the tents instead of using all the straps because we don't always have a place to pound in sticks. But that would work. I don't know. It's just an idea. I mean,
what if we just declared an autonomous zone?
There you go.
I saw a business do that in
Yeah.
In New York.
In New York, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Platteville, autonomous zone.
So are we in agreement then?
Let's just
I think
yeah,
anything we can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
support our local.
And that, I know that a lot of people in the communities know that these our restaurants are at this, and I know doing takeout, I mean, we do a lot of that just because we want to support the local businesses.
I'm tired of taking, I wanna eat in your establishment. I wanna drink a beer in Silver Spur. I'm tired of this. I'm gonna lick the floor, I don't care. I won't go that far. Yeah.
But if you wanna reach out to see what they need, I was just throwing that out there, we got 35,000 back from the CARES Act that we're not using for anything. I do wanna do some improvements with the county, but reinvest that money back into the businesses.
I love it, love it.
Because, not to start a debate, but I thought about that this week, and I'm running around Home Depot, Lowe's, I'm working on my bathroom, I got flooded, and I'm getting hungry, I can't go down to Tijuana to grab a burger. I can, and take it home and eat it.
Right.
So there's, our businesses are suffering from the inconsistencies of the guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I was
At
with
least.
150 people in Home Depot on Saturday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
The only thing, and I have only been able to think of, is just trying to advertise and promote and, let everyone know, hey, we need to please order out.
a lot of
Everybody
those
does,
employees live here.
Yes, they do, yep.
They live right here in Platteville.
Oh, the owners, most of the owners,
Well,
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that's just my 2 cents, so.
I like it, everybody
Great
okay
idea.
with that?
Second it,
Yeah.
third
Right.
it, fourth.
So let me know what you find out.
Okay, perfect,
Thanks,
so,
Troy.
I will call, we'll get something rolling with business owners then.
Okay, if you need me to jump into, and I'll go, if it's, big event tent, or preferably, the 8x8 easy Fs we put sides on, so you can separate families with picnic tables and little space heaters,
Okay.
we'll do it.
You get it figured
Every
out?
place has a parking lot we can utilize, every food place we have,
Yes,
even the Patch Grill does.
yep, yeah,
So instead of parking on the side there, let the employees park somewhere else, we'll take that area and we'll put up tents.
fabulous. I'll get to working on it in the morning.
Okay.
First thing. All right, anything else before the board? All right, we stand adjourned.